So continuing our discussion on the Techelles controversy, just to go back, what the Techelles controversy is, if it's a controversy, according to some, it's a no-brainer in either direction. You definitely wear, you definitely don't wear. So for some, it might not be a controversy. But the Techelles issue, let's say, is that the mitzvah of Techelles, probably due to wars in Israel, to turmoil, we lost how to make the Techelles. And the factories got locked up, turned around, and the bottom line, for about 1,000 to 1,300 years, we did not have the Techelles. And then, in the late 1880s, 1890, the Rabbi, who was always thinking about bringing the Mashiach, like all of us, and he said, well, what are we going to do? We're going to wait for the Mashiach to come build it, then we're going to say, where's the Techelles? We need the Techelles for the big day kahuna. For the priestly garment, you have to put Techelles on. So what are we going to drag around? Let's find the Techelles now. So when the Mashiach comes and we build the Beis HaMikdash, everything is a done deal already. So he was on a mission to find the Techelles. So even though it's true by the big day kahuna that if you don't have the Techelles, the big day kahuna apostle, what about regarding the mitzvah of tzitzis? That's the other time we wear Techelles. For the mitzvah of tzitzis, let's say we have Lavan without Techelles. Can we fulfill our mitzvah of tzitzis? So everyone agrees to fulfill your mitzvah b'shleimuso, your mitzvah in its appropriate, optimal time, you need Techelles and Lavan. And to Machokas, we've shown him how many Lavan, how many Techelles, whether it's 1, 2, or 4, different shitas in the Rishonim. And it's a Machokas in the Mishnah, I think with Rabbi writes, HaTechelles ma'akeves es halavan, that if you don't have Techelles, you can't fulfill the mitzvah of tzitzis. And in fact, that is the Baal HaMor Shita. The Baal HaMor passes like Rabbi, and therefore, if this is so, he did not wear tzitzis, because obviously it's a meaningless activity. In fact, maybe wearing a four-cornered garment is a problem because you don't have tzitzis. So therefore, he never wore tzitzis in his life. It's interesting when Rav Soloveitchik says it over. He says, I can't believe the Baal HaMor wasn't buried in a talus. Like, he wasn't worried about the fact he wasn't wearing tzitzis, but the fact he wasn't buried with the talus. So the Baal HaMor paskins like Rabbi had Techelles ma'akeves es halavan, and I like to say, tongue in cheek, most of Klal Yisrael follows the Baal HaMor. They seem to be Hasidim of the Baal HaMor, but I say the majority of Jews do not wear tzitzis today. They might not do a lot of other things, but they seem to follow the shitas of Baal HaMor. Just kidding, they don't do any mitzvahs, but they follow the shitas. However, we don't pass in like the Baal HaMor. We pass in Techelles eino ma'akeves, that the Techelles, it's ideal to have it, but if you don't have it, it's also a go. So that's the way we paskin. That's been the minhag since we lost the Techelles. The majority of Klal Yisrael have been wearing tzitzis. That's been our tradition passed over until, and now the issue in 1890 when the Rabbi claimed he found the Techelles. So should we put the Techelles on our beged or not? So obviously the Rabbi claimed he found, I think he called it the cuttlefish. He thought was the Techelles, and he sent questionnaires, or he sent out suggestion boxes to all the Gedolim and said, tell me what you think. Are you pro or con? So many sent back. I'd say the majority of them, for different reasons, were against it. They said no, we don't, either because they didn't think it was it, or for other reasons. And there were those who agreed with them, the minority of you. So obviously, to the Ravina Hasidim, that was it. They still wear it today. Rav Herzog did his PhD on Techelles, and he had a correspondence with the Ravina Rebbe, and he said it was wrong. He says it's not the cuttlefish. He thought it was actually the murex, but he didn't. But then he said it was purple, so it can't be it. But they later found out that when the wife threw the husband out of the house because it was smelling up the house, when he went outside, the Techelles turned blue, and he realized this could be it. So what's ironic is when during the Holocaust, the Ravina Hasidim, everything got destroyed, and they lost how to make the Techelles. So they went back to Rav Herzog's writings, who disagreed, but they based on Rav Herzog, and they went and they redid what they thought was the Ravinas, and they still wear it today. Today, I think it was about 1980, they finally came up with this discovery that the Murex trunculus could have been Rav Herzog's snail or not. They found out this is, in their mind, these people thought this is it. And besides the fact that it was blue, if they found it in the right area, there were a lot of things fit into the thing, and therefore non-Radvina Hasidim, other people started wearing the Techelles. Rav Herschel Schachter is one of the proponents. He wears Techelles because he thinks, at least this is the one. No one says Vadai it is. What do I mean? No one. People might say Vadai it is, but I mean the talk is cheap. If you actually believed 100% this is the Techelles, and it's acceptable in halacha, that it would be enough that you could just find it and wear it, then we wear wool and linen tzitzis together, because that's the pasuk in Devarim, that the prohibition of shatnez. The prohibition of shatnez is near the mitzvah of tzitzis, and we learn out aseh docha los aseh. We learn out the positive mitzvah of tzitzis overrides the negative commandment of shatnez. So we learn out from there. So if we actually believe, then we, halachically speaking, that let's say these digs were acceptable halach, let's say you don't need a mesorah, so then people would be wearing wool and linen. And so no one goes that far. No one has that much guts to say, and the risk violating shatnez shelo b'makom mitzvah. So therefore no one goes that far. But they say, what's the risk reward? As we say, even if you're wrong, so what? It's still kosher. Even if you're wearing Techelles, let's say the Murex isn't, is what the proponents say. Even if the Murex isn't it, but so what? What's the risk reward? If you wear it, great, you fulfill a mitzvah min HaTorah. And if I'm wrong, so what? I'm wrong. We'll see what harm there might. I'll tell you what the opponents say, there might be some harm, but it's the proponent. So even to no one's going to say 100%, but it's at least a suffix. They claim all these things that they found, at least in halacha, creates a suffix that it might be a Techelles. So what are the rules regarding suffix? So we know the rules. Suffix d'oraisa l'chumra. A doubt regarding a biblical law was strict. A doubt regarding a rabbinic law was lenient. And a double doubt even on a biblical law was lenient. So last I checked, Techelles tzitzis is a mitzvah min HaTorah. So they say, okay, so I can't prove it is, but it's at least a doubt. So suffix d'oraisa l'chumra, and they claim you should wear the Techelles on. They claim it's minimum to no harm, and even if there is a little harm, the win of fulfilling a mitzvah min HaTorah beats out any chumras or like min chasidus. So that's what. Therefore, of course, if you claim like some do that there's a 0% chance that it's a Techelles, then okay, so it's not a suffix to right, so it's not a suffix. But let's get real. It's hard to say that it's a 0% chance, and it's hard to say it's 100%. It's probably somewhere in between. Again, so people could discuss enough. For our purposes, let's assume it creates a suffix. So that's what Rav Schechter's argument, suffix, not his, but I'm just using his name. He's not the only one. Suffix d'oraisa l'chumra. And I'll use, it's not only his name, but since we're close to Toronto, you might have heard of him, Rav Shlomo Miller, one of the big poskim in Toronto, his next door neighbor. And I think he's from the Lakewood Yeshiva in Jersey. He's one of the poskim. And he's probably the posek of Toronto. I mean, everyone has different rebbeim, but he's probably one of the biggest poskim. Many people call him the posek of Toronto. So I'll just use his name. It's not limited to Rav Schechter versus Rav Shlomo Miller, but I'll just use those two names, because those are two names we're familiar with. So Rav Shechter saying Savik Daraisa L'Chumra, and therefore I don't know if it's yet, but it's enough of doubt. So Rav Shlomo Miller says no. You don't say Savik Daraisa L'Chumra here. Why not? So he says as follows. He quotes a Rav Chaim. There's a famous Rav Chaim al Pi Shmua. That it's a tradition of Rav Chaim. That when do we say Savik Daraisa L'Chumra? Let's say I had a full meal. I had bread, I'm chayiv to bench now. And then I forgot to say ritzeh, or I'm not sure if I benched. So, savik daraisa l'chumra. Because now when I know the second time I bench, I will fulfill my mitzvah benching mitorah zvad. There's not going to be any doubts left. When I bench the second time, that's when we say savik daraisa l'chumra. However, Rav Chaim says, what happens if the second time I'm still in doubt? I'm still not going to know. I'm not going to be any further ahead, because when I finish, I'm still b'torah safek. So they say over in the chamber of Chaim, when do I say safek daraisa l'chumra? That's only if I know the second time I do it, I'm yotzei b'torah zvadai. But if I'm still going to have a doubt afterwards, then there's no point. That's what Rav Shlomo Miller says. Even after I put on the Techelles, I'm still in doubt. So therefore, Rav Chaim says we don't say safek daraisa l'chumra. So what would Rav Shechter argue to that? So Rav Shechter would argue back. Number one is, I'm not meshubah to follow Rav Chaim when he goes against the Rishonim. He claims there are Rishonim against Rav Chaim. Of course, Rav Shlomo will say they're not against Rav Chaim. But what does he say? So Rav Shechter says, like, what do you mean? There's a Ran in Sukkah. The Ran in Sukkah writes that let's say it's the first day of Sukkot, and already it's Ben Hashmashas the next day. So let's say sunset's at 6 o'clock, and you couldn't get a hold of a Daled Minim, and now let's assume Ben Hashmashas is between 6 and 6:30, and at 6:15 you get a Daled Minim. So should I shake the Daled Minim or not? Because it's a suffix. I mean, suffix is I don't know. The day might have been passed already. So of course you would make a bracha. Well, I don't know, of course or not, but you would make a bracha. It depends on if you say that's a separate machok. A savik daraisa l'chumra, you also say the bracha, because the bracha is only d'rabbanan, but halacha, no bracha. So there's no bracha, but what about should I shake the daled minim? So the Ran says, yes. And the Mishnah Berurah quotes a Prima Gadin similar. Let's say there's only one pair of tefillin, it fell into the ocean. Okay, but you went down, the pool. You went into, but it's all wet, so it might be puzzle inside. And it's only a pair of tefillin, should I put the tefillin on? So the people go, put it on without a bracha. So that's the Rav Shechter right there. What do you mean? That's not, we see, it's true, Rav Chaim may or may not say it. Rav Chaim, he agrees Rav Chaim does say it. But if Rav Chaim goes against the Rishonim, I'm going with the Rishonim. The Rishonim say we do say Savik Daraisa L'Chumra, even if it's B'Torah suffix, like we see by the Tefillin, and therefore he says you still put on the even if I'm in that. So what's Rav Shlomo Miller's argument back? He says, no, you're not learning Rav Chaim properly. Don't laugh. I think he has, I don't know if he says it in Yiddish or he has an expression. He says, he doesn't mention Rav Shechter by name in the article, but he doesn't like that. He said something, don't sneeze as an Adam, don't sneeze at an Adam Gadol. In other words, Rav Chaim knew the Rishonim, he wasn't going against the Ran, he's saying something different. And he has a beautiful shtickle on, part of a whole shtickle on Savik Daraisa L'Chumra, a beautiful piece in its own right. So what does he say here? He says, no, the difference is like this, he's saying, when the Ran is saying is, when you take the lulav ben hashmashas, could I do anything more? Then no, it's true. I'm only yotzei b'torah safek, but could I do it? There's nothing more I can do now. It's ben hashmashas. So basically, if I've done, when does the Ran say safek daraisa l'chumra? Even if you're going to do it b'torah safek, that's if you're going to do everything humanly possible. That's it. So same thing with the tefillin. But over here by Techelles, we're still looking. There's still more to do. Find the Techelles, so therefore, that's his distinction. He's saying, when does the Ran say Savik the Rice and Torah Safik? If that's all you could, there's no more for me to do. But by the Techelles, he claims there is more to do. So number one, you could argue, the proponents will argue either one or two directions. Either, well, I don't have to make that distinction in the Ran, or Rav Chaim, or you could say, no, I agree, but there's nothing more to do with the Techelles. We did everything we can. We went through it. This is it. We've done all. There's nothing more. We searched. Everything fit in. The dye, bloom. This is all we. So either way, as you see, they still argue with one another. Rav Hershel Shachta wears the Techelles. He says, Savik the rice, among other things, Savik the rice Chumrah. And Rav Shlomo Miller says that no, we don't say Savik the rice Chumrah. I'll do one more point. We'll keep Sean waiting. So he says, so interesting. So both Rav Shechter and Rav Shlomo Miller both say the negative of doing the other side. In other words, so Rav Shlomo Miller writes, according to me, that it's not the Techelles. You're right. There's no harm. Whatever, there's no real harm. And there's a chumrah, the Pri Megadim, that the string should be the same color as the garment. But he says, but according to you guys who say it's the real Techelles, we have a real problem, because we have a biblical prohibition about Tosef and about Tigra. You can't add to the Torah and you can't subtract from the Torah. So they point out that. So he says like this: it's a machlokas rishonim, as I mentioned. How many Techelles should there be? 1, 2, or 4? And it's not paskin in Shulchan Aruch, so we don't know. So he says we don't know how to paskin on that shaila. So therefore he says if the halach is really you need 4 threads and you put on 2, you violate Baal Tigra. And if the halach is 4, you put on 2, you violate Baal Tosef. So since we can't, so according to me, it's not a problem. According to you, that you say it's the real Techelles, according to me, it's not real, so I'm not wearing it. But according to you that it's real, you could be a much serious problem. You're in violation about Safek Baal Tosef, Safek Baal Tigra. That's his taina on them. He says it's a danger to wear real Techelles. He's not really saying it's a danger because he doesn't really think it is. But he's saying, according to them, and Rav Shechter has. So he said, we're going to see you got to take a stand on this machlokas because both sides are going to say. So Rav Miller is saying you don't have an option. If you're saying it's real, then you definitely can't wear it because then you're over about Tos about Tigra. And Rav Shechter says something different. He says everyone. He's saying now that we have the Techelles, you have to wear it, and if you don't wear it, you're in violation about Tigra. So right now, anyone who's wearing tzitzis without Techelles is in violation of that's most of Klal Yisrael, or the majority, violate Baal Tigra. Why? Because based on a Turi Evan in the Beis Halevi, that there's halacha by karbanos that some karbanos you sprinkle on the mizbeach 2